What up? What up? What up, guys? This is Uriah, your host for the Hub of Fantasy Football, and my co-host Foley,
How's it going?
and my other co-host Evan.
Hey, what's up, man?
So, guys, this week is a little different. It's by Armageddon.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna be in a bind this week. Y'all got any comments on that or?
No, I don't like the way the league handled buys this year, where they started doing buys and then they had like 2 random weeks in the middle where there were no buys, and then they went back to buys, and so you have weeks like this, and I think week 14 is going to be another one where it's pretty rough. Get rid of these buys before we get so close to the playoffs.
Let's just play every week. You know what I mean? Let's just
No
get them out
off
there.
times.
No off time. Who
I agree
needs
with
it?
that.
The NFLPA will love that.
I don't know. The bye week is one thing. I'm already in a bad mood, to be perfectly honest with you, because at this point in the season, I have now lost to both of my co-hosts in extremely close, stupid games that have
Dude,
made me
I want you to
angry.
know. I want you to know that game. I was stressed out.
Oh yeah. I at one point towards the end, I was like, okay, cool. I got it. And then just out of nowhere, Tank Dell wants to catch some passes. And I don't know, who do you have, the defense or
The
something?
defense scored.
Yeah,
I was
the defense.
look.
Ugh.
Let me tell you something. It first came on, and I was like, Joe Mixon touchdown, 40-something yards, and I was like, okay, take a deep breath. We're good. Everything's fine. And then they get the ball right back, run it right back up in there. He scores again, and you're up by like 8-9 points. And I was like, I'm done. I'm cooked.
I felt good at that.
And then Tank Dell just kept catching balls, and then the defense scores, and I was like, what?
yeah,
So,
ridiculous.
so Evan might be number 1 in the league, but he's number last on this podcast.
Yeah, I guess.
Absolutely.
I guess, man, it's all. Look, if I had started Dallas Goedert like I thought I should have, I would have been fine. And with you owe everything to Dan Campbell and Jared Goff doing the dumbest play I've ever
Taking
seen.
that
in
safety.
That safety for no reason. Just anyway.
I called Dan, and I was like, I badmouthed you from time to time, but I will sing your praises.
Just get a
help
safety
me out
real
here.
quick. It's not going to matter at all, but do it.
So, saying this, guys, and this will be somewhat for next year for most of the people listening, and I have never
I
done
disagree.
this. Pay attention to your bye weeks.
No, I disagree.
No, okay.
So
First couple, I'm fine with that. Don't even think about it. But eventually, you got a plan. And the reason I'm saying this is we'll go into later, but it's fixing to affect a lot of people in this league.
Oh, for sure it is. I still disagree. By the way, just to say while the thought's on my mind, if we think the bye week blues are bad now, they're talking about adding another game to the schedule and having 2 bye weeks for every team. So we're really going to hate
bless
that.
America.
But as far as the paying attention to buys when you draft, I think in our league it's true for quarterbacks. That's about it. You don't want to have all your quarterbacks sitting in week 12. But other than that, I mean, it's just you never know how it's going to go. You never know who you're going to get on the waiver wire or anything like that. Draft the best player available, and you'll figure out the bye weeks when you get to
Absolutely. I guess what I should have said was around week 1 or 2, look forward. I'm not saying that, plan for it. I'm saying you need to pay attention because saying this, in our league, I have now, are my 2 backup quarterbacks the greatest? No, but they are far better than what some people have.
Yeah.
And there was no...
Evan.
I had a plan, and I moved early on getting a Giants quarterback, only for them the next morning to say, "No, it's not this guy. Who you, an idiot?"
But it's
And
not
I'm
just
sorry, who got the correct quarterback?
Yeah, whatever, man. I'm sure he's going to be
a
amazing.
great asset, sort of like Cooper Rush.
not
He will
gonna
never
start,
touch
he's
the
not
field
gonna
for me.
start a game for Foley. He's just going to sit there to bone me this week.
Which I literally, I was drinking water when this message came over, and it was like, Foley, oh, I've planned for quarterbacks, and it's literally the trashiest quarterbacks. I mean, Cooper Rush is not that guy.
Hey,
No.
Cooper Rush had a great fantasy game
He
this
had an
past
okay
week.
fantasy game,
Because
but
it
it was
was
a
garbage.
terrible actual game.
But anyway,
Tim.
all I'm saying is, please pay attention because 3-4 weeks ago, some of you guys should have been planning for this, what's fixing to happen, because you were literally in contention, and you're fixing to not be because of your decisions.
I mean, look, this is also, it goes all the way back to, again, we're a super flex league. something we talked about early on, which is having depth at quarterback when you draft and figuring out that depth. I mean, for me, what I did was I took Josh Allen and Tua, and then there was this run that I did not expect, and my QB 3 and 4 were Aiden O'Connell and Jacoby Brissett, and it was rough, but I was able to make moves, and O'Connell would have worked out, except
He got hurt.
Penix would have worked out for me, except for Kirk Cousins is actually healthy this year for no reason.
Didn't
And
expect
good.
that, did you?
No, I didn't. I really expected him to be out week 5, but anyway.
But yeah, my point is just like, try to draft so that you are stacked at quarterback. It pays off to be stacked at quarterback. And if you can't, like it didn't work out for me, you got to figure out how to make some moves.
And if you got some low-round quarterbacks, you can try and dump them off for some top-tier talent.
That's right.
The end of the season.
That's right.
We're not going to bring that up.
Except, well, in other leagues you could. In this league, you'll get vetoed, apparently.
Yeah.
And saying that, also, guys, for the people who are in one quarterback leagues, I would you're the lesser league. I would say highly recommend going full running back, full wide receivers. Do not worry about that quarterback, because
if you're in a 10-team league, you're going to find a QB.
12 team, you're fine.
12,
Yeah.
But moving on. Y'all got anything? Any just hot takes? Because this week's Semi Bowl will not be served.
This isn't a hot take exactly, but something I do just want to stress is that it's the return of the king this week, baby.
You think so? Is he back?
He is back. Can't guard Mike. And here's the numbers for you. He has never gone under 1,000 yards in a season. That means over the next 7 games, he would need to get 665 yards.
Wow.
which is not
It's not unbelievable.
It's
No,
not
it's not.
unbelievable.
I am
Unreasonable.
so scared because of Kate Otten.
If he-
I'm like, he's doing great.
I mean,
And then-
theoretically, this Evans comes back and potentially hurts him. Theoretically, though, he's going to probably be more of that Godwin, move the chains guy, continuing to be.
But my boy Will Disley, that was the other
That
guy.
was another thing that I didn't like at all. Where did that come from? Will Disley.
I pulled that out my butt.
Yeah, just
You know what? I was saying off air that I was looking at where the first kicker was taken in our draft, and actually most of that round was all a bunch of busts. But Will Disley was taken in that round. It took a while to pay off.
And somebody dropped him.
Yep. So yeah, I'm just saying Evans. I mean, if he gets 100 yards a game from here on out, then he's got it. He's got another 1,000-yard season. And I mean, for the Buccaneers, I think every year their number one thing is let's make the playoffs, but their number 2 thing is
Evans.
Let's get Mike Evans another 1,000 yards.
Oh well, no big deal. His next
Easy
few
schedule.
games are the Giants,
It's a
the
great
Panthers
schedule.
twice, and the Cowboys. Oh yeah, and Las Vegas. Why not?
Yeah, it's a pretty fantastic schedule.
Great.
I'm so
That's good.
excited to
That's
have my
good.
boy back. I love him so much. I hope that hamstring is healed.
Anyway,
We'll
so
see.
Thursday night, the game's going to be the Steelers, who are 8-2, versus the Browns, who are 2-8. What do y'all think? I think personally this is going to be another low-scoring game.
Is this your spicy meatball, or
No,
are you
that's
saving that?
it's not
There's
being
no
served.
spicy-
It's
no
not being served
spicy
at all.
meat
Okay,
At all.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
No, I was just saying this starting the games.
Okay,
I think I agree with you. It's probably going to be all right. So yes, unless this is one of those games where Jameis is on for some reason, because he has these days where he sails everything 100 feet above his receivers, and then he has these days where you couldn't stop the guy if you wanted to.
Well, I think it's going to snow.
Oh,
As another one of the reasons.
that's a good.
But saying that, I will say this for my team, Mr. Boswell has been a asset.
He's
Yeah.
been-
What he's
he's
like
been
21
unbelievable this
points
year.
last week for you, for me, for against you.
Against me, yeah. He's been unbelievable this year. He's been the one to really keep your eyes on. I'm always been a streaming kicker guy and
Yep.
defense guy. It just
This
is
is
what
the
it is.
first year when it was his bye. I dropped somebody else and picked up
And
the
kept your
freaking
kicker.
Eagles kicker who cost me points that week.
oh well.
Yeah,
And then he
Highly-
did the same to me later on.
highly messed up rule that I'm very
did it.
sorry I overlooked.
Yeah, that sucked. Yeah, I mean, look, I do not expect this to be a good Jameis game. I think this will be a very bad Jameis game. This Steelers defense is legit,
It's
man.
tough.
And I can especially imagine a world where Jameis is under so much pressure because they have the best 4-man front in football, and he's under so much pressure that he's just lobbing it up. And hey, maybe it works out, and Cedric Tillman just goes up and grabs it, but I think it's going to be a lot of picks. This could be a 5 or 6 pick game for Jameis.
It could be one of those. This is the thing about Tillman, though. He had a bad week last week. He really did, but he still had his volume.
Yeah.
So as long as he could bring a couple of those down, I think he's still worth a look, especially if I'm going to end up going with him in like a third flex spot somewhere in there.
See, personally, I would think the only person for the Browns you could start, and I'm saying this with people I have, I honestly think Njoku would be your only.
He's the safest bet, I would
Safe.
say.
Yeah, you can
Safe.
easily start him. I think you can probably still flex Tillman, but the sad thing for me, I'm out on Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's not going to happen this year, and I don't know if it's
I
ever
don't
going
think
to
it's
happen
going to
again
happen
for
again.
him.
And that makes me feel bad because God bless Nick Chubb with something else.
Yeah.
And just I had a feeling in my gut that when he did come back, it wasn't going to be the same. And doesn't look like it is.
It's like watching Mike Tyson fight.
Another sad
A rigged
moment.
fight.
Yeah, well, still.
Look, and saying that, how can the man? I mean, did we all see the videos of him just going crazy on the training?
Yeah.
Oh, but no, I said before the fight, though, even setting aside the fact that, listen, I'm not going to say it's rigged or not. I am going to say there were like half a dozen states that banned gambling on this fight because they considered it rigged. Like they said, no, this is a fixed match and you can't gamble on fixed matches. That was what a half dozen state governments said. But what I will say, I mean, you watch the videos of him working out. Yeah, his power is still there, but his stamina and speed are not.
Oh, I understand.
And
I understand
I
that,
think
but
that's
it was anyway. We'll move on from that because that's garbage.
Yeah.
The fight before it was good.
Oh, the woman's
The
fight
woman's
was
fight. Oh, boy,
great.
that was a great
Especially the conversation after where the guy was like,
Yeah. They're cheating. She sucks. No,
yeah, while her eyes hanging below her. Anyway, so for the Steelers, I'm with the weather. I would still not start Russell Wilson. The only person I would start on this team also would be Pickens.
Yeah, I think it's Pickens. I don't know how. I haven't been keeping up with how Najee's been doing, but if it's really snowy, he's gonna get work, so you might get a couple out of him there.
Yeah, I mean, I know Najee's been dealing with some health issues. Is he gonna play? Do we think? Or
Yes.
As far as I know, he is playing. He did a full practice.
Okay,
today,
then
so.
yeah, he's fine. So yeah, fire him up. Pickens, yeah, man. I heard someone else say this. I would love to see a 22, like an all 22 game of nothing but George Pickens is on the field, like just George Pickens at every position. How much fun would that be? He is so much fun to watch play football. Forget everything else. He is so much fun. And yeah, I am very glad to have him on my roster right now.
When somebody throws you the ball, you tend to get happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a cheerful
But we'll
fella.
see. I mean, I do think that he's going to have some come back down to earth games in the coming weeks, and it could be this week, but at some point soon, I think it is going to happen, and I say that as a Pickens owner who really doesn't want it to happen.
All right, so moving on to the next game, we have the Vikings who are 8-2, and the Bears who are 4-6.
Bears are terrible.
What kind of
Remember?
dumpster fire is going on with the Bears?
Everything's bad. It's not clicking. We talked about Caleb Williams.
How much
last
of it?
Week.
How much is his? Is it him?
To be honest with you, I looked at a lot of his stats, and they aren't bad. It's
Yeah.
not. It's the schemes are bad. The effort's not there, and they're just like I said. It's just not meshing well. And I can't put that all on him.
Before the year and all the years before that, I have loved DJ Moore, but he's almost a cancer, man. It seems like.
Yeah, well, I have a thought on that, which is that DJ Moore, back in the offseason, back before the draft, they still had Fields on the roster, and DJ Moore came out and said, I do not want them to get rid of Justin Fields. I've been through a lot of, helping rookie quarterbacks along. I've got a guy now who's starting to get it together. Don't take him away from me. And then they took him away from
gave
him.
him another rookie,
and I don't
didn't
think
they?
it's anything against Caleb, but DJ Moore is just frustrated. Now, look, last week they put up 19 points, which is not much. Caleb looked great. That looked like Caleb's best game last week, and you could see they were doing some things schematically that were a little bit better. It just didn't show up in the box score necessarily, but I saw improvement in the offense last week, and it makes me optimistic. I don't know that this is Caleb's toughest test yet, going up against Brian Flores. I would try to avoid having to start him even in a super flex if I can. and
A
same
lot
with
of people's not going to be able
a
to.
lot of people are not going to be able to. Yeah, you're probably in a situation where you just have to. Although I think Todd is who has him in our league, and he also has Derek Carr and Jared Goff, so I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the other players, I mean, obviously DeAndre Swift. I'm getting excited as the Roshan Johnson owner. Like, if anything
Yeah.
happens to Swift, I don't wish ill on Swift. But if anything does happen, Roshan Johnson becomes a plug and play. The receivers, I'm staying away
I
from.
was just to say, nobody on the receivers.
Yeah.
As far as the Vikings, okay, I know we've talked in the past about Mr. Darnold. How are we feeling about Mr. Darnold still? Is he still... At one time, I think I said Pro Bowl. I still feel like that's possible, but...
Did you say MVP at one point?
No, that was Baker. I said Baker was going to be
yeah.
MVP, which is probably not going to happen either. But that's
Not
going
with
to be
his receivers being injured all year.
not with Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Vikings. How are we feeling about them? Justin Jefferson. What happened to him this year? Is it Sam Darnold or
Sam Darnold did turn back into Sam Darnold.
Yeah. Wow, I actually did not realize that. Justin
Oh,
Jefferson in
oh,
our
he's-
league has not topped 20 points one time this year.
Oh, he was
At
like
all.
he was really good like week 1 or 2.
Week 2, he had a 19-point
yeah,
game. That's
and then
his best
after,
game of the
yeah,
year.
after that it was
I was going to ask the same thing about Aaron Jones because he also looked like he was going to be back
Yeah.
on his game. At
He's
the
been
beginning of the
terrible
year,
also.
And it's just not happening. For
it's,
him.
it's mostly Sam Darnold throwing to people you've never heard of, and the
Jalen
defense.
Naylor. Jalen, yeah, and the defense. That's right, in the end zone.
In the end zone,
he
yes.
does fine right up until he gets into the red area, as Tom Brady calls it.
Red area.
But
Eating his ice cream.
yeah, no, I mean, look, I think everyone knows my feelings on Sam Darnold, and that is that he is Sam Darnold, and he fooled a lot of people early on. He's not terrible. He's just not as good as he looked those first 4 weeks.
His defense makes him look a lot better.
Absolutely, it does, and his weapons. And so yeah, you're still going to start Jefferson.
Have
He
to.
isn't- Yeah, it's not like he's a bum.
And Aaron Jones, I feel like,
Yeah,
especially
probably
this
starting
week,
Aaron Jones, but I would expect
nothing.
Man,
not a lot.
I've
Yeah.
had to look at my roster. Like I've got Aaron Jones, and I've got other options that I'm considering over him. It's tough. The 1 week I benched him was his best week of the year. But yeah, I don't know. He's at one point looked like he was having the best year of his career, and then he's just fallen off.
It just stopped.
Which is a lot of what's been happening in Minnesota.
I think he got hurt or something. He was out a week or something.
There was
like
a time
That's
that
right.
he went down for a little bit, but I think it was right before his bye, and Ty Chandler played a little bit of that game and
He was
hasn't
still
done
garbage,
much else.
yeah.
yeah.
They brought in Cam Akers. I don't know. Is he doing anything?
Well,
No.
no.
He scored a touchdown.
Yeah, he goes. We get to the red spot.
Yeah.
And and it's like it's some guy Isman Massett or whatever. It's just people you've never heard of scoring the football.
Did Jalen Naylor go to Southern Miss, or am I making that up? He's the wide receiver 3 on that roster. But I mean, Addison's been kind of doing better than
Man,
he's been getting better.
he gives you crap games.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you're like, I've started him 2 times and he sucked, and I'm not starting him again, and boom, 20 points.
That's my thing with him. He's impossible to predict. It's the same reason I always say sit Jameson Williams for the Lions, even though he just had this
What
huge
happened?
game.
Ugh.
He had a huge game this past
I know,
week.
but
Yeah, I mean, it's
hard to predict.
exactly.
That's
These
what I'm
boomer
saying.
bust guys. Gabe Davis used to be the same way. You just never know when they're coming.
Now he's dead.
And now he's dead.
Yeah.
R.I.P. So yeah, I don't know who to start other than T.J. Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. Yeah. I mean, obviously Darnold Superflex is fine still. Aaron Jones is a considerate for me.
I agree with that. What about you? Have anything?
I think you hit it on the head. There's not a whole lot to say. You know where the questions are, and it's, are you stuck with it or not this week?
All right, so the next game is going to be the Lions versus the Colts.
Who said last week on this podcast
Oh
that
gosh.
the Lions are going to air out some frustrations and just beat the ever-living
You're
heck out of the
I can't say that you
Jaguars?
were wrong,
Somehow, though, I should.
but it
I
was
sh-
the Jaguars.
I should acknowledge, though, on the Jaguars, though, Uriah, you and I had a thing. Evan bailed on us that week, but we had this thing where we discussed what happens first. Christian McCaffrey plays a down of football, or Doug Peterson gets fired.
And we were wrong.
We were wrong. We both said that Peterson probably gets fired first. I can't believe Peterson didn't get fired.
How
Monday.
are they holding on to him?
Everyone in the world thought he was going to get fired Monday after that game.
Yeah, I did too. That is the craziest. Like, I just don't understand. That's another just dumpster fire of an organization. Like, what happened? At one time, they were stacked. Back in the day,
The 90s Jags were so much fun to watch. Mark Brunell, come on.
and then they just disintegrated.
I liked Blake Bortles.
You
You're one of those
you
guys.
would. But so the Lions, you got to start everybody. I mean, you're starting the water
Jameson
boy.
Williams is the only one that you're kind of again questioning, but I think you're probably going to roll with him anyway.
You're starting the press reporter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, J-Mo is just, again, it's going to be so hard to predict. I would say it comes down to, he's one of these guys, really. Look at the rest of your lineup and look at who you're playing. If you're favored to win, I would say you don't start Jameson
Safe.
Williams.
Right.
Yeah,
Go
play
safe.
it safe.
If you need that rocket, if you
Exactly.
need that,
And inject him into your lineup and hope he has a
Well,
blowout game.
at this point, is how risky do you want to be?
Exactly. And if
Are you shooting for the stars, or are you just trying to get by?
If you're Dan Gamble or Riverboat Ron, then
How-
stick Jameson Williams in your
How
lineup.
about Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year?
I mean,
Got to be.
here's the only thing. I don't disagree for the most part, although the game against Tampa, some coaching decisions were what cost that game. It's all relative to expectations, right? Like, the Coach of the Year is who is overperforming relative to what was expected, and they were in the NFC Championship last year. They were expected to be a contender. I don't know.
I still think he's there.
He should be. I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL, don't get me wrong. As someone who has criticized him in years past, he is one of the best coaches in the NFL.
All right, so let's move on to another dumpster fire, the Colts.
That just beat they just beat Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on. That's
man.
Are we putting Aaron Rodgers that far up?
You know what I learned today?
What's that?
There are reports that's incredible that after, I believe it was week 4, it was the week before Robert Saleh got fired. They lost to the Denver Broncos, who did not look good at the time, and Woody Johnson asked the coaches to bench Aaron Rodgers.
And they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. And then the next week, Robert Saleh got fired.
Wow.
And you know what's crazy about that is, like, he's doing all this, wearing the chain, the owner, wearing the chain, doing all this, and he's probably next year he'll be gone because of the Trump and everything.
He'll get another
He'll
job.
go to like England and be
That's
like
true.
the ambassador or something.
That's what happened last time.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just just a weird situation.
So the one thing I'll throw out there, and I'm sorry, I meant to bring this up before we got into the game by game, but this is the time of year for fantasy owners to just take into account the fact, as Evan and I both did with the Giants quarterback situation, one of us got it right, one of us got it wrong.
Start guessing
You
because
got
they're
lucky.
fixing to start. They're fixing to bench Rodgers.
Yeah, that's what it might be. They might be benching Rodgers soon. Who knows? Tyrod Taylor could be coming in, but yeah. But just think about this fact that some teams are falling.
Taylor, I'm sorry.
Some teams are falling out of contention, and they're going to make decisions based on that. They might put in some backups to see what they've got. Obviously, they know what they've got in Tyrod Taylor, so I'm not sure what the wisdom of it would be. But Daniel Jones got benched to avoid the thing we talked about last week.
I'm so hoping Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis, hey, see what you
Please
got.
let him go.
Is he healthy?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be awesome though to see him get a shot.
He's got to be better.
Yeah, exactly. This
Anyway.
was the worst game Rodgers played. This was a game where he looked physically washed.
No.
If you're Garrett Wilson or Brees Hall, are you just like, I quit?
Well, I think the prevailing wisdom is that he's not going to be back next year. So you hang on. Probably. I mean, they're still getting their looks.
I think the Jets have got to hope he doesn't want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how awkward is it going to be if Rodgers comes out and is like, "I want to play for the Jets again"?
Yeah.
All right, let's
Imagine if he.
let's get this back on track.
I'm sorry.
The
Before we get
Colts.
back on track, can I just say one last thing?
Go ahead.
That would just amuse me to death. Aaron Rodgers decides he wants to play football again next year.
Vikings.
Wants to get traded.
Las Vegas Raiders, and he wants to bring his friend Devontae Adams with him.
Yeah.
That would make me very,
That'd be
very happy.
so
But yeah,
weird.
Vikings make more sense.
Vikings is the path.
So the Colts.
I don't
Your
like
boy
any of
Anthony
them.
Richardson leading a game-winning drive at the end.
Yeah.
A squirrel finds a nut.
I don't like him at all this week. I don't like Michael Pittman. I don't like Alec Pierce. I don't like.
I don't think you can-
Downs. I don't trust.
I don't
any
even
of
like
them.
Jonathan Taylor.
Nah, he hadn't really been up to his potential.
What happened to him? Was it the injury the second year that he just died? I mean,
It really did never get to those heights as his.
his first year he was great.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He had
And
that
then after that-
stellar run, and it just, oof.
I've never been on the Pittman train. I just
I have.
Pittman has the ability. He just is not going to get it done.
I think he is a wide receiver too. That
So-
has been billed as a wide receiver one.
So start nobody.
I'm
Once-
sorry, I don't have my sheet in front of me. Remind me who we were playing, who they're playing.
They're
They're
playing the
Lions.
Oh yeah, that's right. Shit. Excuse my language. Yeah.
You can't. I mean, once again, I think this is one of these things where if you're trying to go boom or bust, if you're going for boom, you go AR. But I would not.
I don't like it at all.
Yeah. I mean,
But I mean, they did lose Azoni.
They did.
So-
Alex
Anzalone's out.
Anzalone. Yeah, I mean that's good news for Jonathan Taylor, who I mean, by the way, what's his name? AR makes Jonathan Taylor better. It's good news for him when AR is on the field. So yeah, start him. The loss of Anzalone
Who?
will help.
Jonathan Taylor.
Start Taylor. And start AR in 2 quarterback leagues, of course. I don't know. None of the receivers. You can throw any. Josh Downs. Start Josh Downs.
And say Todd went all out. I mean, he was going for the biggest boom with those 2 quarterbacks, and for a minute, it was good.
That's Chris, right?
Oh, is it Chris?
Jaden Daniels and AR 15.
Okay, Chris. Then. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. For a minute there, Chris was,
Yeah. He had Fields too.
and it was looking good.
Yeah.
He's still up there.
And
I'll be
Andy
honest with
Dalton.
you. He's
Yeah, things kind of fell apart.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, Josh Downs is one of the best slot receivers in football at this point. We're gonna look back at that draft class and say, holy cow, the number of amazing tiny slot receivers that came out of it is pretty great. And he's one of them. I think at this point he's an auto start every week, no matter who the quarterback is.
So y'all are saying AR, Jonathan Taylor.
I don't like AR. I'm not rolling
I don't.
with
I don't. I don't
In
like
2
him either.
quarterback. Yeah, I wouldn't start him in 1 quarterback. Don't
I
get me
would.
wrong.
I
I'm
would
fine with
hope.
him in
I would hope I
Superflex.
had somebody better.
I'm fine with him in Superflex.
If I had him, I would do it, but I'm stuck right now.
I
2
think-
quarterbacks that
and-
start, and one of them's gone.
Yeah, and saying that, well, we'll get to it, but so moving on, we'll go to the Patriots, who are 3-8, versus the Dolphins, who are 4-6.
Please
and
be a shootout.
man, what about May? I love me some May.
He's so good.
Yeah, Drake May has surpassed all expectations as far as I'm concerned.
I mean,
He's met my expectations.
that good with what the options he has.
It's
That's
such a bad
what's
offense.
that's what's good.
But that was why he was also the perfect fit for the Patriots, because this has been his entire career. I mean, in college he had
Nobody. I
He
agree.
had Josh Downs for a year, and then Downs went in the NFL, and suddenly he had no line, no receivers. Tez Walker was his only
Okay.
receiver, and he was terrible.
So saying that, is Drake May, has he moved? I hope we all know that Bo Nix is probably the best rookie quarterback as of
Statistically.
now, and I guess most people would say Jaden Daniels next. Does May move into number 3?
I mean, look, I don't change my draft rankings from what I had before.
No,
I
I'm
was-
talking about fantasy.
Oh, for fantasy. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, of the rookies, yeah, you obviously want-
Viable starter.
in a 2 quarterback league. I still wouldn't start him in a 1
Okay.
quarterback league.
I've started him in one quarterback here and there, and he's done all right. But I'm in a bad situation in that league. Yeah, I would agree with you. He falls into that 3rd position pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I still believe in Caleb, but for fantasy this year, yeah, he's a distant 4th.
Who's he throwing to? I know you pay attention.
Drake May?
Yeah.
He's got Kendrick Bourne is the one that he was loving
That's
last
right.
week.
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne
Is it-
has been up and down. So
What about
Kendrick,
Polk?
Polk is done.
Yeah,
he's done.
He's
Polk's
a
nothing.
bust. He's another
Okay.
Patriots draft bust. It is Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, and Hunter Henry, and a little bit of Keyshawn Booty.
Okay.
Not enough booty to make you happy.
No, but even no, there's
Where's
never
it at?
enough.
Yeah.
There's never enough. But I mean, look, even with just buyer beware with someone like Kendrick Bourne, because he had a great game last week. The week before, he played 1 snap. So I mean, they're still trying to figure things out. People forget. Do you guys remember KJ Osborne?
Yeah.
Dude.
It wasn't that long ago. He was a real thing. He's on that roster.
Is he still?
He's still on that roster.
Oh wow,
and
he is.
yeah,
The formerly Viking.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
had a 10-point game this year for the Patriots. How
Wow.
about that?
I mean, they have not ever really solidified their starters, so he's been in the lineup sometimes. But Douglas and Henry are the 2 consistent ones, and I think Bourne is getting there.
All right. So Dolphins, Tua, Tyreek.
I think Tua can be a one quarterback play this week. It's borderline, but if you're in a streaming situation at quarterback, he's fine.
Are we having to start Jonnu?
Yeah,
I'm
at this point.
rolling with Jonnu. I kind of,
Okay.
again, tight end position. What are you gonna do? But he's more reliable than some that you're gonna end up.
And
with.
I would also say last week, please do not throw all your eggs in the basket on that game and those players, because I feel like that was a fluke last week.
Yeah.
It was just somebody's open, I'm getting it to them, and they score. Jonnu.
So
2 targets on 8 receptions is good. It's not an every week thing.
Yes.
Tyreek Hill, another touchdown
I'm
last
sorry,
week.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Are you saying sit Tyreek again?
it's 2 touchdowns for the year.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, he scored
Look it
multiple
up.
touchdowns in
3.
week 1.
I'm sorry, 3.
This was his third.
That was his
touchdown.
third.
His third? I thought he scored
Yeah.
2 touchdowns after he got arrested. Was it just one?
Just
after
one,
he got
but
arrested?
he had 130 yards.
130 yards. Okay.
As an owner in another league, I want him to do good. I'm just saying, once again, this is the time of the year in fantasy where you either have to shoot for the stars or you got to play it safe. I
Tyreek
do
Hill,
not.
He's safe enough for me. I think he's safe enough as a wide receiver too, at the very least.
I hope he is.
There's just I don't know because
I
it's
don't have a
not
lot-
Waddle. Waddle's not taking him.
Well, I don't have faith, and that's all I'm saying. Am I going to start him in my other league? Yes, because I got punished last week for not starting him.
Right.
The
You'll get
Dolphins
punished
just
this
have
week,
no
too.
I
explosive
will.
plays this year.
Yes.
Like, even with Tua, there's just no explosiveness
look
in
the
this
same.
offense.
I think
No,
they've
they
been
don't.
figured out.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they have been figured out. That said, you can still see them getting better every single week. I have a lot of respect for the New England defense, not just as a Patriots fan, but they are kind of consistently underrated. But still, Tyreek can have some success.
A-Chain has been a nugget.
Yeah, that run scheme is kind of up and down. Like, one week Achan looks really good,
The
and
next
then
week
the next,
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge bust. I should have had him on my bust list at some point this year.
All right, so moving on to the next game, the Buccaneers, who are 4-6, versus the Giants,
Return
who
of
are
the King?
2-8. Oh, here we go.
You're
And
talking
I'm just
about Tommy DeVito, right?
That's
absolutely.
right.
I'm just going to Evan, just bear
No,
with
that's
us.
a spicy meatball.
Bear with us for a minute. Foley, you have the floor.
I've
Get-
already
get-
given
get
my
it- get
I've
it
already
out your-
given my rant, but Mike, I love you. I know you're a fan of this podcast. You are my favorite active football player. I have owned you every single year in this league.
Send us some jerseys, bro.
Please do. You're the only like non-Patriots or Lions
Just
jersey I
look,
would
just give
ever
me
wear.
Otten. Just hook up with your boy. Send me Otten, and we'll give Evan.
I don't want any of these.
Okay, I'll take his other one, Bucky. Give me Otten and Bucky just for fan. I love them.
I don't care about the rest. I just
couldn't wear
want
it.
stuff from you, Mike. You're the best.
Couldn't wear it at all. You know, the Buccaneers. Mike's back, so you're starting Mike. You're starting Baker Mayfield. I guess Bucky is the one, or is it Rashad?
It's got to
that's
be
just
yeah.
impossible
Dart throw.
to tell. I don't know who else. Kate Otten.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's it.
Yeah, I wouldn't start either running back this week. I mean, the Giants' run
Sneak-
defense is sneakily kind of good.
I was supposed to say sneaky Buccaneers defense.
You know, they just haven't been playing very well this year.
They've
But
been pretty terrible.
But once again, what you said.
Yeah.
Look at their schedule.
Right.
Oh, I mean, that might be a playoff stud.
They do
for
have
you.
they have a great rest of the year.
They
and
still
they've
have
had
to
some,
execute.
they still have to pull it together. I mean,
I
the best
agree.
game
I agree.
they demolished
But-
the Saints
But how
that
many
week.
how many people on defense are you going like, oh, I know they're gonna score? Like
Right.
me with defense, I just go, oh, that looks like a good matchup. Here we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how I do it too.
It's so hard to.
Sometimes it's tough to. It's just kind of tough. You know, we don't really know. You guys remember at the end of last year when Tommy DeVito came in and led the Giants on a pretty good run. He was putting
Yes.
up points.
Remember back in the day when you had to draft the Ravens and like the Bears just because you knew
I never bought into that.
what, dude. Back in the day, the Bears, the kickoff return, punt return.
Yeah, with Devin Hester when he was
Yeah.
doing it every game.
Oh man, you had to. That was given.
Mm-hmm.
Giants neighbors.
I'm
question
going with
mark?
neighbors, and please, Tommy Cutlets, please get
That's-
this man
that's-
some balls, please.
That's Tommy Salami.
I need him to be. I need him out there slinging it and getting it to him because Daniel Jones hasn't done it. I paid a decent amount for this guy, and I need a good game this week.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Neighbors because I mean, early I kept saying it the first like month of the season was as far as Daniel Jones was concerned, Malik Neighbors was the only person out there. And then he just kind of, after Neighbors came back from the concussion, Jones just kind of was like, actually, I'm going to spread it around a little bit.
Starting Shepard. Or whoever.
No.
Whoever's on there, I can't remember.
Darius Slayton.
Darius Slayton,
Right.
yes.
Wandale Robinson, yeah. So maybe...
Is it Wandale or Waynedale?
It's Wandale.
I believe it's Wandale.
Waynedale just sounds so much cooler.
Waynedale sounds like a town about 45 minutes away.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, it'd be somewhere with some great fried chicken.
Oh, yeah.
Waynedale
100%.
Robinson sounds like presidential assassin.
He was going after Ulysses Grant.
Exactly. Yes.
That was his nemesis. Damn you, Grant!
Exactly, yes. But no, I mean, I do hope Tommy, as someone who owns neighbors in another league, I hope Tommy has a good connection with him. I think it probably will be good for him. I don't necessarily think that Tommy is a worse quarterback than Daniel Jones.
I think he definitely has the ability. He showed it before, just whether or not he can execute
He's just
it
a
this year.
slower quarterback. That's it.
And he's slower physically, but also he's not going to make the big plays.
I thought he was so fixed to say mentally. He was like, he's so slower physically. Anyway, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Maybe
going there.
mentally as well.
No.
I don't know. I can't remember how he did with processing things like that, but he doesn't have a cannon for an arm or anything. Not that Daniel Jones did, but he had a better arm than Tommy Cutlets did.
Well, they don't all have to be bombs. As long as he
That's
can
right.
dink and dunk it down the field to neighbors every time, I'm good with it.
That's
I'm going with Tyrone Tracy, too. I love him.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
a big fan of Tyrone Tracy.
I think this is going to be a big week for Tyrone Tracy. Hint, hint. I will talk more about that later.
All right, moving on to the next murderous game. It will be the formerly team known as the Cowboys, who are 3-7, versus the Commanders, who are 7-4, and will demolish the Cowboys this week.
Almost certainly.
Ryan Robinson. Oh,
I'm gonna say Jaden Daniels blows up this week.
hell yeah! Listen to the man.
As
I
much
like
as
it.
I down him, I think my ninth grader could go out there and murder the Cowboys. So that's kind of
They don't have anything to play for anymore. I don't even know why they even suit up half the time. Like if I was CD Lamb, I would claim turf toe and sit for the
Please
rest of the
don't.
year.
Please don't, CD.
That's what I
Well,
would
see,
do if
Please
I
do
was
not do
he'll
that.
be in the club rapping.
Yeah, that's
Please, CD, take this seriously. Remind
Yeah.
people why you got that big contract. Stay out there. Keep doing your thing.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
amazing.
Nobody on the Cowboys.
I mean, CD.
starting-
CD is it.
CD is just one of those ones that you have to. I'm probably stuck starting Rico Dowdle this week, and he hasn't
poor
been.
guy.
He hasn't been as terrible as the rest of the Cowboys. He has had okay games. I think I'm stuck starting him in my other league.
I think I would take Ezekiel over him.
I don't think I would. I don't think I
That's-
would touch
that's how
Ezekiel
sad
with
it
a.
is.
No,
I
no.
wouldn't touch Ezekiel
would-
with a pole that is 4 years long.
Who had more? What was their scores?
I don't even know what their scores.
Look at
was,
it. I'm
but
just curious.
Dowdle was
Because I
not
saw a
good.
lot. I saw a lot of Ezekiel. That's the reason
They
I
were
said
about
it.
equal, actually.
I'd keep trying Dalvin Cook over either of them.
Dalvin
He's
Cook's
still in the
back on the
practice.
practice squad.
Yeah.
I would still have him. I would have him. This version of Dalvin Cook, I would have starting over Rico Dowdle and Zeke.
Yeah,
I just would.
Dowdle just has that possibility of getting one good play to balance you enough, but he's not somebody you should seek out. He's not somebody that you should start if you can avoid it.
I think all three are the same age. People forget how old Dowdle
Rico
is.
Dowdle was that?
He might not be quite that old, but he's not young. He has been in the league for a long time.
Really?
He might be like 26.
He's 26. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, people forget that he is not a young whippersnapper. That said, Brian Robinson, man, I think we're done with the Cowboys. They suck. And,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Well, I will say, in a desperate situation, in a super flex league,
Turd
if-
Ferguson.
If no,
Sorry,
if
Brandon Aubrey, you're starting Brandon Aubrey.
well, yeah, sure.
But anyway,
The kicker.
the kicker, you got.
I don't acknowledge kickers' existence.
Mm-hmm,
No, I hate kickers very, very much. But if you're in a desperate situation in a Superflex league and Cooper Rush is out there against this Washington defense, I don't hate it. He put up pretty good numbers last week. He is gonna. It doesn't look like they're gonna move on to Trey Lance.
Quick question, totally off the subject. Just you're number one in the league, right? And say you have 3 teams, which I mean that's kind of how our league is. But you're trying to stay up top. You're trying to get the bye, and you don't have a top 4 or 5 kicker, do you start a kicker? Because our league is
Because you
jacked up.
penalize points.
Oh,
Because I think that the
I mean, I'm just going deep here. so-
percentages of time, if you have negative points for missed field goals, the percentage time that you are going to actually lose points at the end of the game, like end up with a negative score in your kicker slot, I think that's so small. I don't think that happens.
I hope that doesn't
much.
happen.
well,
this year.
listen, I have legitimately been in this situation before where my opponent, after Sunday night game is over, my opponent is done. I've still got a player on Monday night, and I'm ahead.
Yeah,
And I
sit the
pull
guy.
them. Yeah, I just
I've
pull
done
them
that.
from the starting lineup.
The only
just
reason
to-
you wouldn't is if your league has a tiebreaker that's points. That's the only
Yeah,
reason that you
that's
would
right.
not do that. But yeah, I've done that before too.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, Chiefs.
Oh, I'm sorry, we
Go
didn't
ahead.
talk about the Commanders though, other than Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, we
I
got
would
to
say
it. You're
you
going to say Brian
start
Robinson,
everybody.
but is it not? Is it going to be
Eckler?
Eckler's show? Is
No, it
is
was. I
Eckler
mean,
taking
last
the
week, Brian Robinson went back to a majority of the snaps. He was like
thing? He didn't.
57% snaps.
52.
52.
No, that was Eckler. Was at 52%.
Well, they had the Commanders run the most 2-back sets of anyone in the league, so they both got a lot of. And it was Robinson was the clear runner, and Eckler was the clear pass catcher. Robinson looked like he was getting back into health. I think next week is their bye, so he'll have some extra time to rest. But for now, against this run defense, against this sorry Dallas run defense, and he does play them again later in the year, which excites me even more.
Well, saying that, if it's so bad, wouldn't you just go ahead and throw Eckler if you had him out there?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's flex worthy.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I definitely think he is a deep flex.
Ertz and
I mean,
Scary.
are you starting Scary Terry this week?
was a
I would
disappointment.
imagine that you are because, again, the Cowboys' defense is so bad. But then you look at last week, and it was
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm getting
what
at.
happened there.
Yeah, I mean,
Or is it
targets.
just Ertz?
it was the Pittsburgh. I mean, you're starting Scary Terry. I
Okay.
think. I don't think that you let one bad game scare you away from. I mean, he was wide receiver 8 on the year going into last week, so I don't think you can shy off from him. I do have a little bit of concern that Cliff Kingsbury, as much as I've sung his praises, he does have this tendency to get figured out late in the year. His schemes are pretty simplistic.
The Cowboys aren't going to figure him out, though.
Probably not. No, Mike Zimmer over there is not the guy who's likely to diagnose it. But I'm just throwing it out there. I am getting a little bit worried. His offense gets stale quickly.
And I will also lead to this later on, but I would just like for everybody to know this week in the NFL is a week of some massacres.
Yeah.
So some people will greatly be affected because of these massacres, and some people it's going to hurt. Moving on, Chiefs 9-1 versus the Panthers, who are
Well,
Can
3-7.
I tell you something about this game?
Another massacre.
I had looked ahead at the Chiefs' schedule, and if the Chiefs were still undefeated at this point, I was going to call
This was your
trap
trap.
game,
This was your trap,
spoiler,
yeah.
all that. However, because they lost to the Bills last week, I feel so bad for the Panthers and
it's
what's
gonna be
about to happen to them.
so ugly. And you know what? Good. I hope Patrick Mahomes puts up 60 points.
He
And-
might.
And I said this last week, where I think this season the Chiefs have been like, oh, we have our scoring plays, we know what works.
Mhm.
So let's just throw out all this other stuff because we don't want to be figured out. We want to have stuff in our back pocket. I bet it goes back to scoring with what they know, which is Kelsey, Pacheco.
Is Pacheco back this week?
He's
or is
practicing.
is.
He's practicing
And that's
today.
something I think we need to discuss is the usage there. But
it can't be a full load. It's just,
I don't think so
I
either.
don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be. So that makes me want to stay away from every
Ooh,
single
James
Chiefs back.
with those
James
two.
has them both, and he's been looking forward to Pacheco coming back. I
don't think
would
this
not
is
have
the week.
been.
Hunt's looks so good.
He looks pretty good. I would start Pacheco if he plays. He was good enough before the injury that I think you've kind of got to. But I'm not going to feel good about it at all. I'm going to feel quite icky. And Hunt is a deep flex consideration, I think. I wouldn't
Okay.
want to start him with Pacheco out
What
there.
about wide receivers?
Man,
I mean, are we doing anything with
I
those?
don't know what to do with them. Is the trouble? And
You don't know
Xavier
who to
Worthy
start.
is a flex for sure. DeAndre Hopkins is probably a flex, but I don't think you're going to get much out of either of them
I
necessarily.
don't want to start either of them. Yeah, I mean, to what you were saying about like the way they've been calling plays, we saw in the first half of the game, they schemed Xavier Worthy wide the hell open. They were going to him early and often, and it was working. Okay, he missed a wide open throw.
Yep.
But other than that, Worthy was so effective. Then in the second half, they just didn't target him. They just went away from him.
Because I think that's on purpose. Honestly,
I think it's dumb. It's dumb.
I do, but you've won so many Super Bowls. I think I think they know what they're doing. Unfortunately, is that going to suck? Yes, but as you said with Hopkins, the zombie mummy in the end zone is going to be. I mean, he's probably going to catch a touchdown to that this week.
Yeah, one of them definitely is. I think Kelsey probably pulls in 2 this week. If I had to guess, they might even throw one at old Noah Gray. Gosh, doofy looking face.
It'll be a shovel pass to Noah Gray.
Yeah, it'll be something ridiculous like that, and it'll be a vulture. It'll be on the 1 yard line, and Pacheco's right back there.
Nobody scores except for Patrick Mahomes.
And popping it over to Noah Gray.
You know what? Yeah, I'm getting on board with starting fringe starters, both Hopkins and Worthy, just because I do think this is going to be like what we saw with the Lions last week.
Yeah.
They're going to be a little bit. They want to remind people what they are. So yeah, they're going to air it out. It's going to be a massacre. It's
Panthers, nobody,
Panthers.
right?
I mean, you're starting Chuba for
well,
sure.
I forgot
You're
about
starting
Chuba.
Here's the
but
thing.
Is Jonathan Brooks back? Is he playing this week?
He's
don't care if he
back,
is.
but I think you still got to go with Chuba.
It's Chuba. I'm not starting Chuba this week, but it's not that I don't think you should. I think Chuba's a great play this week. I mean, it's a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong. Their run defense is pretty good. I just have a wealth of riches. The buys are not affecting me.
They are not.
I have
The rest of the year, they're not affecting you.
I mean, my running backs this week are. I have Brian Robinson. I'm starting him against the Cowboys. Duh. I have Tyrone Tracy. I'm starting him. I have Ramondre Stevenson, who I'm sitting against Miami.
Ooh.
And then I've got, so Chuba's like number 3 or 4. He's number 3 at best, but I also have all these wide receivers in my flex now that Mike Evans is back. I mean, it's would you sit Brian Robinson for Chuba Hubbard? Mm-mm. Would you sit George Pickens for Chuba Hubbard?
Mm-mm. I would not.
I might.
Because that's
close.
where I'm at.
That's close for me.
I would.
I think I'm starting Brian Robinson, but
that would be a weather.
Or
If it's like snowy at game time,
I'm definitely starting Tyrone Tracy over any of them.
Yeah,
Any of the people you listed. He's going for me no matter what.
All right. So next up will be the Titans, who are 2-8, versus the Texans, who are 7-4.
Joe Mixon, I love you.
Auto start.
I need you to understand. You are my favorite active football player right now. I know you're a big fan of this podcast, so if you want to send us some jerseys or whatever you got.
I just heard this a moment ago about someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I would have been so mad. 40 points.
I don't care. I still love him.
Sorry.
That was outstanding.
Well, it wasn't him that did it. I mean, it was some other people that didn't score on your team. Tight end.
Yeah, my tight end didn't do a darn thing. And you know what's funny? In my other league, I also had Joe Mixon put up 40-something points over there, and I had Mike Gesicki starting in my tight end, who also put up 0 points.
Ooh.
Both leagues, my tight end slots, 0. I
maybe-
won over there, but barely.
Maybe you should have called the tight end king.
Actually,
That's right.
if you want to, I guess I could have called Matt. But last week, Foley, you were with me on this. You were the one that said
I was.
Kraft over Goddard, and I thought, that probably makes sense. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, I still kind of would lean that direction, actually.
It's another toss-up this week. Whichever one I start, I'm sure is not going to do well.
Yeah, don't you love the lottery when you're in those situations?
So, Mixon, Nico, CJ.
Tank Dell's a deep flex.
I
Tank
like
Dell is
it.
a deep flex. He really is.
Yeah.
I was hoping that he would have been worse off last week, but he wasn't.
And get Big Bob in there.
Bobby
Big Will
Trees?
Disley. Will Disley.
Don't you-
No, not Bobby. No. Talking about Big Will Disley.
yeah, okay.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
So
All right.
you're who has Disley, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, he picked him up and beat me with him.
Good for you. Yeah,
Yes.
Disley was one
Come
who I
on.
kept looking at picking up for a long time, and just they were always higher priorities for me, and kind of wish I had.
Oh, yeah. Well, Stover. I mean, not Stover. I love Stover. But Otten was on bye last week, and I was
Yeah,
like, who
yeah.
could I pick up? And I was like, there's Will Disley. I'll try it. And thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
every
good
week
one.
for like a month, he was on my waiver list, but I just had higher claims than him. and nobody else scooped him for a long time. Anyways, so I think that's it for the Texans. Yeah,
We're out on C.J. Stroud, and I think that's the
QB2. Like he could be a
Yeah.
QB2.
He's not a starter, although this could be a good game. But
We'll see.
Titans defense is better than people give it credit for.
They are. I mean, you get a record like 2-8, and you just automatically assume that the defense ain't there. But it's not the defense that's losing them these games.
I also feel like the Titans are. I'm not going to say the same as the Bengals. They're a couple of notches down, but
Opposite.
But no, I mean they're better than what their record is.
Well, yeah, but it's their defense.
Yeah, their defense is good.
Their
and their
offense
is
lets
bad.
them down. And their
Yeah, I
defense
mean
is
it's
good,
Minnesota,
Right.
sort of.
Yeah.
But Titans, Pollard. That's it.
Yeah, I mean you roll.
You can
with Pollard.
consider Ridley. I would get a little concerned with Pollard.
I will say Ridley missed practice today, but it is an illness, so who knows? It might not be anything serious.
Be all right. Will Levis is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I think Will Levis is going to make things uncomfortable for the Titans because I think they probably already made up their mind that they're going to move on. But now Levis is getting a little bit better.
He's not bad.
No,
He's really not, and he has a stretch that is enviable for the rest of his year. If you got Will Levis, he's worth watching in any of these weeks. He's got Houston this week, but coming up Jackson and Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville again.
I was so hoping somebody would trade for him, but I mean,
I like the man. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that his coaches like him, and I think that he's not a good fit in that scheme generally.
They probably don't like him because of the mayonnaise thing. I think that might be it.
who would?
I think they don't like him because they didn't draft him. This is a new regime in
Sure.
there. It was Mike Vrabel's guy.
All right, so next up used to be a wonderful game, the Broncos versus the Raiders. Not so much now. It's probably going to be a Bo Nix show. And
Javonte Williams came back. Hey,
Yeah.
where'd you been? You know what I mean? Like you
Freaking
were
running
so
back
excited for that
carousel.
Audric Estime, however you say it, and then that
You
was
said it
nothing.
right.
and then the wide receiver is the whole team's a carousel.
Yeah, there's
it
no
really
telling.
is. Sean Payton is such a frustrating coach
He's-
right now.
his whole career he's been like
Yes,
this.
man.
I mean, I know it's reminiscent of back in the day with
Back
the
in the
Saints.
day with the Saints, I mean, there was that good old time when Michael Thomas you could count on every single week.
Colston.
But back in the Super Bowl era of the Saints, you had no clue.
Colston.
I mean,
You always had
Colston, yeah.
Colston was the only person you could just
Yeah.
bank
Yeah,
on.
Right,
Yeah.
but there was always going to be somebody else who probably outperformed him just out of nowhere, and then you don't see him the rest of the season. That's the Peyton method. That's his plan.
So I'll just nip this in the bud. Brock Bowers, the only person on the Raiders, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Broncos, 2 quarterback. Bo Nix is in there.
Yeah, he's on my.
We said
he's in
one
my
quarterback
You think he's in
consideration.
one?
I said that last week.
maybe
I,
this
I
week.
stand by it this week.
I might give you this week, especially with the Raiders.
I mean, that was one of my. I called him boom
Yeah,
last
you
week,
said,
and
you
he
said
boomed.
QB3 rest of the season. I remember.
I didn't quite say that, but I had him top 10,
Look,
I think, quarterback last week. and he
we are
was
not going to
definitely that.
dispute your love for Bo Nix. We have said it many times
we
on this
talked about it.
podcast.
Plenty of
You
You know,
love
it's
Bo
so
Nix.
funny that I keep trying to downplay that. You guys keep trying to upplay it, and he keeps getting better.
That's what I'm saying.
It works out well for me. This
Yeah, we're
Foley
doing
spin
somebody-
y'all are doing for me.
We're doing somebody a favor. I don't even know who has Bo Nix, but you're welcome.
G, Garland.
Nix has been, I mean, he's been really, really good.
As far as anybody else, maybe Javante, but I wouldn't
It's,
because
again carousel. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it
It'll
going
be
to be?
Estime this week,
Could
or
be
Jaleel
Estime.
McLaughlin.
Why not? Jaleel McLaughlin get a 30-point game out of nowhere.
all right. So moving on, 49ers, 5-5 versus the Packers, who are 7-3. I think this is going to be a great game.
Yeah,
I also think it's probably going to be a low-scoring game.
really.
I hope not.
I kind of thought it was going to go the other way with it, but that's
Well, they're-
probably wishful thinking
they're
because
at
of all of the.
They're at Green Bay, and in the past, I'm going completely in the past. Those late year Green Bay Packers games are always just either they're boom, they're huge, or they're just like a 9-12 game.
I'm
Yeah.
going from memory here, but I want to say Matt LaFleur kind of has Shanahan's number.
I think you're right.
Yeah, like every year he tends to do pretty well in San Francisco,
But
except in the playoffs.
But saying that, Kittle's back this week.
Kittle's back this week, and that's probably bad news for me because Juwan Jennings was doing just fine without him last week.
So
Fun fact, I think Juwan Jennings is going to have a really good game.
I hope so because I am in a position where, again, I've got so many eggs in this San Francisco basket. I'm going with Debo. I'm going with Juwan. I did it last week. Debo didn't really pan out, but Juwan was good. So
Brock, terrible game last week, but I'm still rolling with
Do
it.
you mean Mac
He's
Jones?
He's definitely bottom QB1 on QB2 at the top.
Stop. He's great. He is a QB2.
Yeah.
Mac Jones. He's
He is not Mac Jones.
I kind of called that, didn't I?
Look, it was a rough game last week. Everybody has bad games. Name one person who hasn't had a bad game this year.
Tommy DeVito has not had a bad game.
That's
this year.
correct. He's right. He got you there.
I can't say anything.
Do you have like a bell?
Oh,
Like a ding,
let's
ding,
see.
ding, ding, ding. He's correct. Oh, there it is.
Thank
yeah,
you.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to say everybody on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Except for Jordan Mason, R.I.P. What a fun run that was, huh?
It really wasn't fun, actually.
You didn't
like,
like
he
it?
disappointed a lot of weeks. He really did.
I guess in this league, maybe. In my other league, he was great. He was perfectly fine.
Packers. Ooh. Got to go with my boy Jacobs.
Jaden Reed. Yeah, Jacobs and Jaden Reed. Jordan Love is
Jordan
a
Love.
QB2.
No, for sure.
He's not a QB1.
I really wish that, for once, I would say Romeo Dobbs is going to have a good week, and then
I
it
don't
actually
think he
happened,
is.
but I just don't see it happening.
Well, when you say
I like him.
when you say he's going to have a bad week is when he has a good week.
Right.
Well, I say he's going to have a very bad
I
week
thought he
this
was going to
week.
have a terrible week against Arizona, and then he had a monster, and I don't think it's going to happen this week either.
Jaden Reed is a fascinating roller coaster to be on, but
What-
you got to start him.
Remember my comparison to Justin Jefferson?
I don't.
I think that was the week I did it by myself.
It might have been.
Yes, I said they were comparable this year.
Sure. I don't disagree with you.
That's so
but
scary.
I think that Jaden Reed has a better quarterback.
Oh, well, yeah.
Also, Christian Watson popped his head out of the hole to let us know it's going to be 6 more weeks of him being bad.
That's right. Yes, he had his moment, so it's
Yeah.
going to be a while before he has another moment.
it's
That's just the
gonna-
way it works.
You know, right up against, it'll be week 18 when you've already lost your championship. He's going to bust out and do something outstanding.
Always how it happens. All right, next up, Cardinals, who are 6-4 versus the Seahawks, who are 5-5.
The NFC West leading Cardinals.
Gross.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with the gross quarterback.
You know,
I don't know what gross quarterback you're talking about.
I am
Kyler Murray's pretty darn good.
Kyler Murray's been killing it, and he's going to kill me this week. Matt, you jerk. He's the only QB he's got that's worth it, and he's going to crush me with it. I just know it. I know Kyler Murray's in for a big, big game this week, and
That
I
means
don't
he's
like
going to
it.
suck.
He might. I don't have the highest expectations for Kyler.
I got him at about 24-26.
The Seahawks will win this game.
I continue to believe in
Maybe
the
I could be
Seattle
with that.
defense more than it has shown. Like, it hasn't been as good as I expected.
That's
I keep
getting stuck
thinking
on the
it's,
name. That is the
No.
example of getting
Look,
stuck on the
can-
name.
look,
it's the
It's getting
Seahawks that
stuck
you
on the.
think.
No. I'm not thinking about the team. I'm thinking about the scheme that they run, and I really do think that scheme is going to work
And
eventually.
I really wish if they would keep with that scheme, which I'm good with, I really wish they would focus more with Kenneth Walker.
I'm talking about the defensive scheme.
Oh, I'm talking about the offensive
Yeah.
scheme.
No, they need to do more with Ken Walker.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
he
he's
is
too
so
good.
good. So
I mean,
okay, so the Cardinals. I know y'all are gonna say Murray.
Yeah.
you start Murray, you start Marvin Harrison.
Yep.
You're starting James Conner. I mean,
Trey
in a
McBride.
very deep league,
Michael
even
Wilson.
old Benson could be okay. But Trey McBride, yeah, you're going with.
Okay, I don't agree, but
I
that's just
don't
because
agree
I
on
don't.
Benson. I would.
I'm in
There's
a deep
not a
league.
world.
He has had a pretty decent little run here. I mean, a couple of weeks above 10 points, which for RB2, if you're in bye week apocalypse, it's not the worst bet.
You're
I
right.
would
Look,
say.
I have Benson in other leagues.
I think
I
you're
like
right.
the guy. I like the talent profile, but I mean, it's like Roshan Johnson.
Sure.
So
I'm not starting Roshan Johnson,
So-
even though he
Good.
just had a 10-point game
as gross as I don't want to say this. Are you starting everybody
for the Cardinals.
for both teams?
Well, everybody but Michael Wilson and everybody but Tyler Lockett, I would say.
You starting Greg Dortch?
Dortch!
You can pick up old Greg Dortch. He
Well,
had one catch for negative
offense.
1 yard last year.
What are you
last
talking
week.
about, Greg Dortch in this game? Who does he even? Is he with?
Greg Dortch is on the Cardinals.
Is he on the Cardinals?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of
Oh,
someone
goodness.
else. I'm thinking of
All right,
someone from the Broncos.
Yeah.
No, I'm not starting Greg Dortch,
Let's-
to be clear.
let's
I also
move.
wouldn't start Tyler Lockett, but I've,
No, I would
I've
not.
made my feelings about Tyler Lockett clear this whole season.
Well-
JSN has clearly surpassed. You and I have gone back and forth on this. Like, you say start him one week, I say start him the next.
It's.
I'm starting him every week now. He's an auto start.
I think you got to
Again, going back to what I
But-
said about Josh Downs, this is another one of those amazing slot receivers
temper
from the
your
class.
expectations. Don't be hoping for a lot, and he's going to give you a lot.
Oh my man, against this defense, I'll hope for a lot. I still think the Arizona defense is not good.
All right, Sunday night. This is the game of the week.
By the
for
way,
me.
I'm sorry. Last thing, Noah Fant is a start as well. I'll say more about
Okay.
that, but Noah Fant is a start.
Sunday night game of the week. Eagles 8-2 versus the Rams, who are 5-5.
I think that the Eagles are going to get kind of upset here. I think that the Rams win this game.
I think,
but it's going to be close.
I think that the Eagles from here on out are fixing to get rolling. And when I say
They're
rolling,
looking a lot
rolling.
better. They
No,
are
I'm-
looking a lot
I'm
better.
talking about like for sure rolling. I'm talking about you got to start everybody. Goddard, I would start him. Saquon,
I'm still-
even Devontae.
I'm still. That's the one. That's the one I'm on the fence the most about. Devontae.
Look, when you
should get more than he gets, but with Goddard back in, with Saquon and Jalen stealing all those, I don't like
Well,
Devontae that much.
I sort of agree with you, Evan, but you know when you drafted him, you're like
Yeah,
number two
absolutely.
for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But instead of giving you home runs, he's giving you like doubles. So just I think you got to take it with what you got.
I don't know. I look at what Philly has done as they have gotten better, and I do think that right now they're the second best team in the NFC behind Detroit. I think it's like they're clearly the second best team, but they're doing less and less. Their passing offense is less and less explosive. They're doing more and more on the ground, and it's just an occasional hit to A.J. Brown.
I think the pass is fixing to open up. That's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
so, but I want to see that before I start trusting Devontae Smith very much. Goddard, fine, it's tight end. But yeah, I'm not crazy about Devontae Smith just yet. Although he was wide open on that one play in the end zone that Hurts
He
just
missed.
couldn't get.
Rams. Everybody?
Stafford's a low QB2 to me. Kyron Williams running with. If Puka Nacua can stay in an entire game, he'll be great for you. So
And Cooper.
yeah, and Cooper, of course, you're starting Cooper Cup. But I'm not starting whatever his name is they got at the tight end. He's not doing anything for him.
Colby Parkinson caught a touchdown last week, but
Did he really?
But that was all he did.
One
It was his
catch,
first,
19-yard touchdown.
That was
You're
his
correct.
first catch in like
Yeah,
3
wow.
weeks, I think.
Yeah.
And saying this, watch out for Cooper DeJean all over
Dude,
I was
Cooper.
going to say that he is.
He's great.
He's the real deal.
Yes.
And we'll get into that a little
Quinion
bit later.
Mitchell is as well.
Yep.
On the outside, but yeah, as a,
And then
I
you
mean,
got
look,
Slay.
all I ever said about Cooper DeJean, however you want to say it, I've heard it pronounced every which way, including by him. But I never thought he could be an outside corner, but inside slot safety type guy, I thought he could be really good, and he has been phenomenal. That's that's arguably the best defense in the NFL right now.
All right, so moving on.
Yeah.
All right, Monday night game: Ravens, who are 7-4, versus the Chargers, who are 7-3. Who would have thought that?
Jim
I feel like
Harbaugh.
this is a trap game for the Ravens once again. I don't even know if you can call them a trap game with them being 7-3, but you look at this season and you're not putting those two teams on the same tier. I think the Chargers might be able to squeak something out here.
Listen, I know I usually disagree with the artist formerly known as Foley, but
What am I known as now?
Yeah.
Just a symbol?
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the jerk with
I'll show you a symbol what it is later.
the jerk with the trade.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No, he's not.
He's not.
Lad McConkey.
I like
Hey,
him.
man.
Stud. He's a stud.
Start him the rest of the year.
Yeah, go with it.
Stud. You
Well,
got
you know what? Because they're finally starting to run an offense that Justin Herbert can actually maintain. It looks better than what
Look,
he was putting out. In the
Last 2
beginning
weeks have looked good for him.
of the year.
Greg
Absolutely.
Roman has figured out how to use it. Well, I keep saying that, but actually, Herbert was hurt.
Yeah.
at
Is
the
it
beginning
Greg
of the year.
Roman or is it?
It is Greg Roman. I like triple checked in my head before I said it that it is not Gary Kubiak. It is Greg Roman. Apologies for the mix-ups last week. By the way, I also kept saying Luke Getsy when I meant Shane Waldron
Yeah, same guy.
last
No,
week.
I think I corrected you on that.
You ended up saying Shane Cauldron.
That's right. I was
Shane
incorrect
Waldron.
about his actual last name.
Not to go on that tangent, but in the beginning of the year, so part of it was I think that Greg Roman hadn't figured out how to best use Herbert, but also Herbert's foot was hurt in the beginning of the year. Herbert looks healthy now. He's rarely been healthy his entire career. He's always
running,
banged
dude.
up, and he's looking fantastic. He's running, but he's also throwing as well as he ever has. He is on that top tier, like right behind. If you want to put Mahomes on a tier of his own, fine. But he is right up there with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, those guys right now.
Sure.
He is-
What you're talking about football, not fantasy.
Sure,
His
but
ability,
it's starting
yeah,
to
for sure.
translate.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
starting to
absolutely.
translate into fantasy now. And yeah, Lad McConkey is one of those. It's kind of like the Bo Nix, where everyone thought I was higher on him than I was, but I'll take it.
I was
because-
really high on this kid going into the year.
I
I
was
didn't make
not.
a move on it. I was high
I
on
was-
him, and I was a little disappointed how it started, but he's getting there.
I had hooked to Quentin. That was
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I mean, what
I'm
we
not
got for
trusting
Quentin
Quentin
Johnson?
Johnson
It's-
ever.
Yeah, he's got stone hands, man. He just got stone hands.
but he looks so good.
He can when he
And he was
actually
great at
catches.
TCU.
Yeah,
He was great at TCU, as particularly against Michigan, which is why Jim Harbaugh loves him so much. His best game was against Michigan. I don't think he could have like 5,000-yard seasons in a row, and I would still be saying, I
Don't
don't
start
trust
him.
this man.
Like I said, he had 8 targets last week, caught 2 of them. One of them was for a touchdown, but you know.
I do not believe in Quentin Johnston. I was low on him at draft time. The only thing I liked about him was that he was the only receiver over 6 feet in that
Sure.
draft, in his draft class. But no, I just do not trust the man. Lad McConkey, though, is incredible.
I don't like so much Dobbins against the Ravens defense, and I'm going to talk more about defense later on. But I'm not wild on Dobbins this week.
All right, so Foley, you got your booms and your busts.
I do. I have my boom bust list. First, Evan, I think you're going to like one of my booms, and you're going to hate one of my busts.
All right.
Quarterback. Actually, you're going to like 2 of my booms. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, this is going to be the week.
Top 5 quarterback this week. He is just going to air it out against those poor Panthers. I feel so bad for them. I have so much family in North Carolina. I'm kind of not really a Panthers fan, but kind of sorta.
First the hurricane, now this.
Yeah. Patrick Helene Mahomes. Man, it's gonna be bad. Running back, top 10 this week, Tyrone Tracy. Wide receiver, this is probably the hottest of them. Jawan Jennings, top 10.
Really?
Top
Jawan
10
Jennings busted
wide
out.
receiver.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be really, really good.
From
this
your
week.
lips to God's ears.
Yes.
I've just got a sneaky feeling him in that X role, it's gonna work out well. Tight end, top 10, Noah Fant. That Arizona defense, I'm still just going to press that cheat code button for tight ends, as I have for many years. My busts, the worst starting quarterback of the week, of all quarterbacks who finish their games, don't get hurt or anything, Jameis Winston. Again, I think this could be a 5 or 6 pick game, or he just never throws the ball because it's snowing. But yeah, I think this is a bad game for Winston, as much as I love the man. I'm sorry to say, Evan, Joe Mixon does finish outside the top 5 this week.
It'll be okay, as long as he's in the top 10.
He might be in the top 10, but he's ranked like number 3 on most people's boards. Obviously, he just had this huge game. I don't think he keeps it up at that level, obviously, but I think he takes a pretty significant step back. It's a pretty rough matchup for him, for his offensive line. Romeo Doubs finishes outside the top 40 wide receivers this week. He is going to be a big old dud. And then tight end Jake Ferguson. Both my tight ends are questionable.
Yeah.
Noah Fant is also questionable. So these are both contingent on if they play. But Fant is inside the top 10. Ferguson is outside the top 10.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm with that.
All right, Evan. Defense.
So yeah, this is we never pay any focus to defense really when we're talking about this.
Or kickers.
Or kickers, but
Screw kickers.
But
I'm-
we've
I'm
talked
with
about
you.
both.
Kickers do not have feelings.
we have talked more about both of those positions than we ever have before. But I just did a quick little start sit for defenses, top 5s of them. My pick of the week is the Broncos versus the Raiders. That's pretty obvious, but the Broncos are stellar, and the Raiders are really, really bad. I know that they're in Las Vegas, but I still got the Broncos for a monster. Following that up with Steelers at Cleveland for the same reasons we've talked about this whole time, especially if it snows. I think the Steelers are an absolute solid pick. Third one, despite what I've said a little bit earlier, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Giants, I like them a little bit this week. It's not going to be my first choice in a defense if I'm streaming, but it's definitely one that I would go with. Deeper picks, much deeper, 12 and plus fantasy leagues. The Browns versus the Steelers. Both of these defenses, I think, are in line for a solid day. The Browns are way lower than the Steelers on my list, but I think they're absolutely worth looking at it. And the last one, Give me the Cardinals versus the Seahawks this week. I want to see. They've been quietly doing better and better, and I think that the Seahawks have a way of messing it all up. And I feel like this is going to be one of those games that it's going to be there. Now, as far as sitting the Rams versus Philadelphia, don't buy it. I'm not with the Rams defense. Philadelphia, like you said, I think they're going to clean up and have a monster. I'm sitting the Niners against Green Bay, up in Green Bay. I don't really like the Niners defense all that much anyway, but, a late November game in Green Bay, it doesn't sound like a fun thing. Third one is probably the hardest one for me to talk about. I'm sitting the Detroit Lions against Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's fair.
I love this defense, and they have been so powerful all year. Losing Alex Anzalone is not the worst thing that could have happened, but it is a big thing. And this feels like a game where Indianapolis is going to pop out and do something somewhat surprising. I just don't think that the Lions are going to be all that killer with it. And to be fair, I think part of that is the mistakes that are going to happen that get the ball back to the Lions are going to be self-inflicted by Indianapolis. Those things are going to happen to themselves. It's not going to be so much interception, fumble, sacks. I think they just kind of screw up where they can.
To be fair, the only thing I'll throw out there, I agree. Like, I'm a little worried about this being a trap game for the Lions, but I will say, AR just chucking it up there to Brian Branch does seem like a possible outcome.
It's absolutely possible. Lions are definitely one. They're just towards the bottom. I'm with you. As I set the start-sit, I did 16 up top, 16 on the bottom. I'm going with those. I also am sitting the Seahawks versus Arizona. I think the Arizona has a great week this week. I really do. I think that Kyler and Marvin hook up for a couple of touchdowns. And like I was saying, I'm just not with the Seahawks defense. I feel like a lot of it is just respect from their history, and I just don't see it this week. The last one might be a little controversial. You're probably going to start this team if you've got it as your option. I sit the Ravens against the Chargers this week. I don't like it. The Ravens have been very consistent all year in their scores. You're looking at 4 to 6 points basically every single week. But like we just talked about, Justin Herbert and Lad McConkey are clicking. The offense looks good. I'm just not with the Ravens so much this week.
All right. So moving on from that, guys. First of all, before we get to the last part, I would like to give a special shout out to our fans in Taiwan, our fans in Alaska.
Yeah.
Scotland.
I'm sorry it's so dark in Alaska.
Just want to give y'all a shout out, and anybody else who's a first time listener. So this would probably be the part where you're like, I don't care to hear the rest of this, but here we go. So guys, now for the last part of the segment of the podcast, we'd like to talk about the future and the playoffs and ultimately the championship of our league. Now, I know there's a lot of going back and forth of who's winning this and that, and I broke it down for you guys so you guys don't have to. So, I know I did this once by myself, but I have re-looked at it in a little bit more depth, and we're going to come around to it.
I think he just got his wife to rub that bald head and look in there and see what the future holds.
So, I'll start off first with me because when I look it up, that's how it comes out. Right now, I'm 6-5, and I'm playing Todd.
On the hunt.
And this game, I have myself losing.
Well,
yes. So ultimately, I will have for the rest of this year, I will have 2 wins and 1 loss. Next up will be Todd, who is 4-7. He will have 2 wins and 1 loss for the rest of the year. Evan at 7-4 will win 1 game and lose 2 games within the next 3 weeks.
I don't like how that bodes for me.
Next, we have the tight end king at 4, that's Matt, at 4-7. He will win 2 more and lose 1. James, sitting at 6-5, will win 2 and lose 1. Joe, sitting at 6-5, will win 1 and lose 2. And Olo, who is 3-8, will be winless for the rest of the year and end up with 3 more losses. Now up to Mr. Foley, who is at 6-5. He will win the last 3 games.
Go on.
Now watch out, his head's getting bigger as we talk. Tony, who is sitting at 7-4, will win 1 game and lose 2.
You're putting Foley at the tippy top.
Hey, I'm getting there.
Go on.
Jaquita, who is sitting at 4-7, will win 1 and lose 2. Garland, who is at 6-5, will win 1 and lose 2. Chris, at 7-4, will win 2 and lose 1. And if your math's correct, that's right, your league leaders will be Chris and Foley. Both will be 9-5, and bringing up the rear, we have myself, 8-6, James, 8-6, Evan, 8-6. That's right, the last 2 spots will belong to Joe at 7-7 and G at 7-7. And just because Garland has the Detroit players, he will win out with the points. So, after that, we now have, let's see, how did I say it? Chris and Belichick will both have the buys. That will put Evan versus Garland and James versus me. Of course, I have myself winning. I have Evan winning the next round also.
Oh, no. Hang on.
Evan and myself will evidently go to the next round. Well, Evan will beat Foley, and I will beat Chris, and the championship will be me and Evan. And saying this, it's going to be a toss-up game.
You had me for a while.
And that will be the end of the championship. And saying this, you always bet on yourself. I will win the championship.
It turned into fantasy towards the end. Like,
this is fantasy football.
It is fantasy football. But like, you really leaned into the fantasy element at the end.
If I'm not mistaken, in my brief tenure in this league, Foley and I are 1-1 in playoffs against each other.
Sounds right.
I think that's what it is.
Sounds right.
Well, I honestly, I went, he beat you first. You will have revenge.
So that's all you thought. Yeah, that's as far as the
Well,
analysis.
no, actually, I broke down the games for each one of these people.
Got a pretty decent playoff run.
And saying this, he has a great schedule for the next 3 weeks. After the 3 weeks, it gets rough. Saying that, everybody, it's sort of like this week is a kind of an easy week for people, even though it's by NATO. But the next 2 weeks gets really rough. Like, there's 1 week where I can't remember who it is, but they literally, in their start lineup right now, only have 2 people starting.
Oof.
And they have nobody on the bench. I can't remember who it is, but and they were in the playoff hunt if they could have won that game.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would just like to say this podcast is a lot of fun for me because last week Evan told me that he thought I had the best team in the league. This week,
I do.
This week,
I stick with that.
Uriah says that I finished number 1 in the league. This is nice.
No, I said you
in the regular season.
The regular
tied
season, number 1.
Tied
But
with Chris.
If I win 2 instead of 1,
This is
it'd
true.
be a 3-way tie in everything else.
But that's not how it was played out by myself.
That's right.
That's not.
This was I was going by stats and total speculation.
Uriah
I think
Spadamus.
I think Uriah is really spot on with his regular season projections, but I think he's getting carried away and looking too far into the future with the playoffs.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't want to meet Foley in the playoffs. I feel like that's going to have a lot of spite behind that game, and I think it's not gonna be good.
Not good for our friendship.
No, it's rough.
All right, guys. So this is going to be us signing off. I'll see you guys later. Foley,
Goodbye.
Evan.
I'm giving a thumbs up to the microphone. Goodbye.